So today we're going to be talking about listening. There are two types of listening that you can do to improve your listening skills and your spoken English because listening really affects your speaking skills as well. So there are two types of listening that you can do. One is active listening and the other one is passive listening. Passive listening is something that I do all the time actually because I just really enjoy listening to something in the background. I'm not actually paying attention to the content. This goes for all of the languages, right? Whether it be French, Spanish, or English. So basically, you just put some sort of audio or podcast on, and you can be doing all kinds of other things in the meantime. For example, washing the dishes or eating, for example, or you're walking around in the park. You can be listening to something at the same time. It doesn't mean that you're paying attention to the content. You might be doing something else, but your brain is actually still functioning, still absorbing information. So this is something that I do all the time because you're learning it unconsciously, you're learning it subconsciously, right? You don't have to really sit there and read books and, do a lot of active listening. On the other hand, active listening is something that I do maybe once in a while. For example, with French or with some of the other languages that I've learned. So I'll sit there and read the transcript of the audio while listening to the audio at the same time. So I know exactly which words they're using, right? And I'll pick out all the words that I don't know and I'll write them down. I'm going to look up example sentences. I'm going to basically remember all these words in the context, right? And I'm going to keep listening to that. I can actually combine passive listening with active listening. The audios that you've already studied, you can basically listen to them while you're waiting for the bus or you're on the subway, for example, right? You don't actually have to pay attention to every detail anymore because you've already studied it. You can still listen to it many times in order to develop a feel for the language, right? So this is something that I do. I do a combination of both active listening and passive listening. And I feel like passive listening is somehow more useful for me because a lot of times I just don't have that kind of patience to sit there and read the transcripts. But I spend a lot of time, for example, walking on the street. I spend a lot of time taking public transport. I do a bunch of other things as well, like washing the dishes or cooking or whatever. I'll be listening to one of my audios. If you do it for a few weeks or even a few months, you're probably not going to see any results, because it's a very gradual process. So you need to do it consistently over a span of a few years, for example. Then you can really tell a huge difference. I mean, maybe it doesn't take a few years to tell the difference. But if you can consistently do it for like a year or something, right, it really makes a huge difference. If you can stick to it for a few years, it's even better, right? I'm not actually trying to study some of these languages. It's just a part of my lifestyle to listen to podcasts, to listen to audiobooks. It's just a part of my lifestyle. I enjoy it. I learned something about psychology. I learned something about, for example, human behaviors. Recently, I actually purchased some audiobooks related to Tao Te Ching, for example. So I listen to all kinds of podcasts and all kinds of, audiobooks just to gain more knowledge. I'm not actually learning the language. It's already become a part of my lifestyle. And I combine both active listening with passive listening. And I feel like this is one of the most useful methods.